Today is Sunday and it's absolutely tipping with rain. So I've got our two volunteers, Josh and Matthew, here behind the camera, and they've put me a challenge. All bonsai creation is about challenges, and the fun is in trying to discover what you can make with something as crazy as this. This, to most people, would be what we call an impossible tree. It really is impossible. It is, by the way, a Bouverensis. And as you know, we have a lot of Bouverensis. This is a young one. When I say young, it must be at least 10 to 15 years old. A small graft. The graft is very good, you can't make out. And the needles are quite small and tiny compared to the ordinary Scots pine. So, like a lot of our pines, there are many, many solutions. If you are able to bend the trunk, it is fairly bendable. Something could be made out of it. What you must never do is have a tree that has no movement or motion. Anything like straight is not interesting. As soon as you introduce some movement, it becomes interesting. While I'm talking about that, if you can look back on some of your old videos, this is a larch we did, was it 3 years ago or 4 years ago? 4 years ago. If you look up our old videos, because I've got about 760 videos, this was absolutely straight, like a broom handle. And we cut it in half and we created some movement in it. So this is now Josh's tree, and see how it's progressing. Absolutely bolt upright. Broomstick became interesting because we introduced some movement to that. So let's see if I can introduce movement to this trunk. So the obvious thing to do when you want movement is to split the trunk, because if you split the trunk, it makes it easier to bend. So splitting the trunk means going all the way up here and putting one incision right through. I'm not going to show you the tedious process of taking it all the way through. Now branch cutters, not branch cutters, branch splitters come in many forms. This is a very good quality Japanese one. So is this in black steel, it's just that this is a bigger size. They all do the same thing. But sometimes, if the trunk is smaller, you don't need such a big tool. So this is a average size, I think 200 or 180 millimeter long handle bronze splitter, and I'm going all the way through the trunk as far as I can go. I'm going to get one of our friends to do it all the way up to here. You would like to do it all the way, straight line up to there. So while this is being done, my mind is racing away because I'm thinking, what can I make from this? Splitting the trunk is one thing, creating the movement is one thing, but at the end of the day, I have to do something to bend it and see what shape I get. Many people have different ways of working. The most common way is people try and visualize in their mind and draw a picture of what they think the tree should be and then make it conform to that shape. I don't usually do it that way. I just go with the flow. And going with the flow means I will wire the trunk and then bend it and see what emerges from that. I will just see what the tree dictates to me or suggests to me. So the trunk has now been split using the trunk splitter, and after splitting, you see how much easier it is to bend. So I can create that shape now. When I did the last trunk splitting exercise, a number of people commented that you should tape it. I'm not a great believer in taping it because I don't find it makes much difference whether you tape it or not. I think when people put raffia or tape on it, it's to prevent it breaking. Well, if you want to see it done, I will show you what it's like. So all you do is really take this thing around and go as far as you can with this. This is raffia, which is a type of grass or reed. It's used for basket work. You can buy it from craft shops, or we sell it as well. But as I mentioned in another video, I've also used electric, not insulation, it is insulation tape, you know, the black tape or the red tape, and it's an adhesive tape, and you can use that. You can even use masking tape. Masking tape is very good. Someone also commented that if you use electrical tape, the bark won't able to breathe. I don't think it's that important whether it is able to breathe or not. The thing is that it's really to stop the thing from fracturing, and it holds it like a bandage. I hope the sound is better because I'm using the mic today. I do apologize to people for the bad quality in recent videos, but when we have more than one person using the mic, it's not that easy. So I bought a few more mics. So this is what people do. People like to do it, just the ritual of doing it. If you like doing it, why not? It may help. And of course, the beauty of using something which is perishable, that means after a year or so, this just, you know, deteriorates. Plastic, on the other hand, doesn't deteriorate so easily. So that's as far as I'll go. I'll now tie it up. And now I'm going to put wire on the trunk. The thickness of this trunk is at least 1/2 inch. It must be a little more than 1/2 inch. So let me see if this is 4.5 mil wire. If 4.5 mil will do the trick. I will probably use 2 coils of wire because I find that when you use a double coil, it somehow becomes more effective than using a single coil. Again, for those of you who are fairly new, I don't know why, but I tend to wire anti-clockwise. It really doesn't matter, but it's just a thing which people may want to note and may want to ask. It really doesn't matter. It does matter when you come to bending the trunk, especially if you do a spiral. But I'm not going to do a spiral, so it doesn't really matter which way I apply the wire. I'm usually able to guess the amount of wire I need, so the amount of wire I put on this trunk comes exactly to here. How do I manage that? Okay, now that's one. I'm going to do another one. And this time when I put the wire, I'm going to put it on this branch because I want to bend a little bit here. Let me see. I may or may not. Let's see. As we say, sometimes the wire can cost more than the tree itself. I hope the microphone is blanking out all this rain noise because the greenhouse roof is almost like a kettle drum. Horrible sound. When I grow these Bouverensis trees, I don't prune the tips very much because I like the branches to get long and extended. So there is, as we say, method in my madness. Everyone has their own preferred way of doing things. I always like to emphasize that there is no right or a wrong way, there's always a different way. Okay, now that we've applied that piece of wire, I'm now going to proceed to try and bend it. So let's take it off the turntable. When you apply the pressure to bend, don't do it in one hard jolt. Just knead it slowly, slowly bend it, grip it with the palms of your hand so that should it snap, at least the palms can feel it. So that may stop it cracking. But having said that, sometimes you can have a disaster. And if it doesn't bend easily, see there's a double coil of wire, you could use a guy wire to hold it, maybe easier, more effective. So don't force yourself to do it just with the wire around the trunk, because sometimes you may need to apply the guy wire. You see, I can almost get the semblance of an S shape. Can you see that very gentle curve that I've got, rather than being absolutely straight, which it started off life as. I'm trying to even do a little bit of a twist and curl in it. My gosh, look at that. It's quite dramatic. Quite dramatic. So we will see which way it goes. And of course, without saying too much, the literati seems to be the main solution to this. Okay, so we're going to apply bits of wire to this and this to see what comes of it. Just apply it and then we will play around with it. So I'm going to get Matthew and Josh to have fun putting wire on. So let us apply maybe this grade of wire. Perhaps let's try single coil first and then that one. So there are two pairs to do. So we're going to make sure we have enough wire to go to that end, maybe enough to go to this end. I'll start it, they can finish it. Now these branches don't need splitting. They're quite thin anyway, and they are flexible enough to bend. So if you complete the wire on that one, and then we apply it to that one. So let me show you what Matthew and Josh has done. I've got them to wire virtually everything. Every branch, every twig has been wired. There are some people who do bonsai and approach projects by simply wiring everything in sight. So let me show you what has been done so far. Josh and Matthew has wired every single branch, every single twig. We've just wired it. The shape is almost like the original, except that we've now managed to give a slight twist or curl to the trunk. So there you are. This is as far as we've got. And there is some movement. So apart from that, I've done nothing. So now that you've wired everything, we can then proceed to try and create something out of nothing. Let me take it off the turntable, work at a lower height. The natural tendency for most people to do is to use the top part as the apex. But in this situation, I can see a situation where you don't have to use that as the apex. I can even use this as the apex, should I wish to. and use this as a trailing branch. So it doesn't follow that because this is at the top, this has to be the apex. You could use that as the apex like that, but you don't have to. The way it works, I can see that this is falling naturally as a branch like this. This is not bending. Let me just put another piece of wire on that to give a little more strength to the branch, and I will see how it turns out. So I can more or less see how it's shaping out, but as I said, I did not plan anything. I deliberately didn't plan anything. I wanted to go with the flow, and with the flow means I can now just extemporize and see what turns out from simply fiddling around. So let's put another piece of wire and see if I can get a more effective bend. I would just say that pines are not everyone's cup of tea. When I first started doing bonsai years ago, 40 or more years ago, I hated pines because to me they were just like a bottle brush. We don't know what bottle brushes are nowadays, but back in the 60s, when you fed milk to the babies, they were always fed with a bottle. And to clean the feeding bottle, you had a bottle brush to clean the inside. And this always reminds me of the bottle brush. And these little tufty bits always confuse people. They just don't know what to do with that. Okay, now that I've put another piece of wire on, let's see if I can bend it more easily. So the second branch, in fact, is going to be my leader, because this going up and coming down works very well. Works really well. When you try and make a S bend, it's always better to try and create a spiral. A spiral gives you a better bend, and it's more artistic as well. What we call a curve in a three-dimensional plane, not just flat, but depth as well. So I've got a leader like that. It's from the second branch rather than the first branch at the top. And this is coming down nicely. And the fact that it's going up and coming down emphasizes the movement even more. So just by doing that, you can see how the shape has been transformed. I haven't decided the disposition, but this is a very nice disposition. This little one is in the way. I haven't cut anything yet. This is the only branch I'm cutting off so far. That's all we've cut from this. That's all, nothing more. And I've literally used everything that was available to me. Pine branches are fairly flexible. You can bring them around. You can even coil it should you wish. You see, if you want to shorten it, you can do that. Bring it back to shorten that, to make a pad like that. See like that. Can you see? Shorten it to make a pad there. So that gives the appearance of the branches coming from much closer in. If you didn't want it sticking out so much. Same with that one. You can bring this side. You see, you can fill that space here. Look at that, you see? You can do that. So I've shortened a long branch by curling it all the way around. So that's become a short pad like that. Okay, so let's do the same thing with this. But this is quite nice as a long sweeping branch. So let it sweep down to the ground almost. Isn't it fun when you've got all the branches wire, you literally play around with it till the shape comes out to your liking. And if you don't want it that long, I'm going to do something like that. If it works, if it doesn't work, I'll do something else. Now I've got to decide whether I need that or not. Perhaps I will, but I don't like wasting anything. So let's live with that back branch for now. So although this was the leading shoot, I'm not using that as the apex. I'm using it as a branch, using this little one as the apex. So just because that's growing at the top, it doesn't always follow. You've got to use that as the apex. So from this exercise, what you may want to learn is that just because the shoot is at the back, it doesn't follow that that has to be the apex. So that top shoot has become a branch. This side shoot has become the apex. This main shoot has become a branch. So don't always feel that you've got to do certain things just because it is there. So you can always improvise and adapt it to suit the circumstances. So here we are. We can shorten this as well. So the time-consuming bit was putting wires on all these branches, but the decision itself wasn't difficult to make. So I'm not going to pot it now because we are still in January. Maybe next month I will get around to potting it up in a drum pot, and we will have a very credible literati. So you can play around with this some more, and the literati can be like this. So what was virtually impossible tree has become a very credible tree. And pines do in fact grow in this fashion, especially in the UK and in China, of course. The pines, especially the five-needle pines in China and Japan, many of the Japanese islands have pines growing in this way. So this is a classic image of a pine. So if we compare the before and after picture, you will find that it makes quite a difference. Again, let us see what would happen if we removed one or two other branches. You can always try to see if you can improve it. Now that back branch was worrying me a little bit, so let's see, would the tree look good with or without? Let me get their opinion. Without? The back is needed. There you are. So unless you try it, you don't need it. This is quite nice as it is because it emphasizes the line this way. But I think that back branch there gives it a little more perspective. So I hope you've enjoyed making this one. Yeah. We've all done it. So literally wiring every single branch and twig and then twisting and placing it in position. So you must admit that when you saw this tree before we did anything, it was virtually a problem tree. It was lying on the nursery for years and years, and everyone laughed at it, said, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? I finally plucked up courage to do something. So here we are. So this was a very interesting project. I hope you enjoyed this one. Today I've got a visitor, and he is in fact one of my son's friends.
That's right.
Sean, how long have you been doing bonsai?
Oh, it's been many years actually, Peter. Probably over 20 years.
20 years? And you live fairly local?
Yes, I am currently living in Crawley.
Okay. And the first time I saw him, I won't mention names, but if you look closely at him, he is what we call a Tom Cruise lookalike. Tom Cruise lookalike. So, in fact, you do work as a...
I have worked, yes, I'm a Tom Cruise lookalike, but I have worked with the man on 3 movies. So
3 movies? Okay.
as his stand-in.
Stand in. There
Not-
you
not
are.
stunt
I'm
double, but
honored.
stand
I'm
in.
honored.
I'm honoured to meet you, Master.
Okay.
I love your work.
Okay. All right. So there you are. You get a chance to meet the Tom Cruise double and your actor in your own right. We're all masters
Awesome.
in our own
That's
way.
great. This
Okay.
looks
Great.
fantastic.